The ribbon is cut on a long-awaited road project here in the mountains. And a Georgia grand jury recommends charges in connection with efforts to overturn that state's 2020 election.
Plus, you may need the rain gear if you have any weekend plans. Those details on the way as Mountain News First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
The Minnie to Harold connection in Floyd County is officially open after a ribbon cutting in Floyd County celebrated the new road. The project on Kentucky 680 has been ongoing for decades, but officials gathered on the corridor this afternoon to mark the opening of the new connection.
Minnie to Harold has been under some form of construction since 1991. It was a project that Eastern Kentucky didn't think would ever happen, and today we've gotten the job done.
Of course, you see Governor Andy Beshear, Rocky Atkins, and many other state and local officials gathered there for that. Community members, organizations, and others all took part in that event. We'll have much more coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Officials at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet have announced lane closings on I-75 in Whitley County Sunday morning. KYTC officials say those travel restrictions will occur beginning Sunday at 10 a.m. and last for about 4 hours. They say a rolling roadblock will happen and it's expected to last about 20 minutes. The work may be postponed if it rains Sunday morning. A Kentucky school district will consider more security inside its buildings after a student was charged with having a gun on school grounds. Lincoln County's superintendent says it has long been a goal, there you go, I can't talk today, to have more school resource officers in the system. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to school leaders on what could happen next week as they move towards that goal.
The Lincoln County School Board has called a special meeting for 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon. At that meeting, they will discuss the hiring of more school resource officers. They currently have 4. They want to have 3 more, essentially meaning that every school will have their own designated school resource officer.
We hear you, and we are listening.
Superintendent Bruce Smith said at Thursday night's board meeting that the school district is well aware of the concern that parents, staff, and others have after a Highland Elementary student was charged with having a gun on school grounds. That's why the board will discuss increasing the number of school resource officers next week. There's currently 4 to cover 7 schools, and the 4th one was added just this past summer. School leaders say they want to abide by the state law requiring every school to have its own SRO.
This bill was passed by legislators recently without any funding. This is up to districts to fund these positions, and it's a big undertaking for districts.
Stanford police say during the course of the investigation, they have learned that this student was not planning to use the weapon against anyone, nor were they making threats against any people. However, this student is facing a total of 3 different charges. In Lincoln County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Lincoln County Superintendent said each school council is encouraged to consider other safety measures they deem appropriate, and the school board would support them in that.
Still watching out for a few spotty showers across the mountains as we close out your Friday, also moving into the weekend, and more rain chances are on the way as well. Here's a look at the radar right now. For most of us, we are dry, but zooming into portions of southwest Virginia, a heavier downpour not too far away from downtown Norton on Highway 23 between Norton and Pound. A few heavier showers there. As we zoom out, though, this is all thanks to a cold front, a secondary cold front moving through the mountains right now. So we are watching out for a few more spotty showers as we go into this evening, also into this weekend, as a busy forecast is going to continue. Those temperatures, thanks to clouds, also showers, are below average in the upper 70s for most of us. 77 for Clintwood, 76 in Pikeville, and 78 over in Jackson and Breathitt County at this hour. So we are muggy, but not too bad in terms of temperature. If you're heading out to a tailgate for high school football, watching out for a few stray showers. I do think most of us are dry, but you may need the umbrella or the rain gear just to be safe, and those temperatures fall into the 70s as we kick off the game later on this evening. And more showers on the way by this weekend, but some cooler air also on the way by this time next week. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. The special grand jury investigating efforts to overturn Georgia's 2020 presidential election results recommended charges for Senator Lindsey Graham, 2 former U.S. senators, and more than a dozen other people. Ultimately, they were not on the list of those charged by the Fulton County District Attorney, which did include former President Trump and 18 others. CBS's Natalie Brand breaks down the new developments.
So we're opening up Pandora's box here.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham is not facing charges, but the Georgia special grand jury probing 2020 election interference thought he should have.
I voted to certify the election. To suggest I'm part of some grand scheme to overturn the election makes no sense given my actions.
A newly released report details Graham and former Georgia Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, along with former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, were among the people the grand jury thought should be indicted. Legal experts say grand juries use probable cause in deciding whether to recommend charges, but in the courtroom, prosecutors have to prove a defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
There is an additional process that goes on in prosecutors' offices before they seek charges, in which they analyze the evidence and decide whether it's in the public interest to seek these charges.
The report reveals the grand jury recommended charges for 39 people. The district attorney ended up charging 19 of them, including former President Trump. Trump's spokesperson called the grand jury, quote, biased, saying they voted to indict dozens of innocent individuals. The report also reveals the 23-person grand jury voted overwhelmingly to recommend Trump face the 13 felony charges that are part of his indictment. Members of the panel spent more than 7 months hearing from at least 75 witnesses. The grand jury recommended that its report be made public. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Coming up on First at 4, People's Bank and Trust in Hazard reaches a major milestone.
Plus, we are watching out for rain chances to continue into this weekend, also next week. Those details on the way after this break.